Welcome to Austin Stories. Today, Karen and her entitled brats trespass onto OP's property, party, and bring illegal substances. Here's how he gets rid of them with the help of the cops. Karen also gets arrested at the airport for having this on her. And there's more after that. Also, all my videos are in podcast form. Search for the Austin Stories podcast on your local provider, or I linked a pretty cool story in the description below. My pool is not a motel room, posted by a disgruntled veteran. Background. I'm a combat veteran and a school teacher at this time, and my wife was a school teacher as well. So I bought my first house 12 years ago. It was in a low middle class neighborhood with a lot of working class families. My house had a pool in the backyard, and my parents bought me and my wife a hot tub as a wedding and housewarming gift. 2 weeks after moving in, we found a stranger and 6 teenaged kids swimming in our pool when we got home. We will call them entitled mom, entitled daughter, entitled son, and the others I assume to be their friends and or boyfriend. The daughter was about 18 or 19 years old, and her brother was about 17. When we told them to get out and to get off of our property, the entitled mom, who sounds like a Karen, told me that the previous owner gave them permission to come over whenever they wanted to swim. I explained to her that I was the new owner and that I was not okay with it. I told the entitled mom, Karen, that not only do I not know them, but there is a legal liability for me if they got hurt. She yelled and fake cried, saying that I was being a bad neighbor, selfish, and forcing her kids to sweat in the summer heat. She told me that if they died of heat stroke, it was my fault for not letting them swim in my pool. I told her to get the heck off of my property and never return. Fast forward 2 weeks. I had put up a no trespassing sign on my property in multiple spots and had gotten to know many of the not entitled neighbors. They were great, and they told me to ignore Karen and her kids. They told us she was already bad-mouthing us, but no one ever believed her. Now, I start to notice when I wake up in the morning that there is evidence of people using my pool and hot tub at night when we are asleep or away. I find beer cans, cigarette butts, and even a used rubber. I figure it has to be from Karen and or her brats. So, I install cameras on the grounds and start videotaping. Sure enough, I catch the daughter and a few others hanging out in my pool on Friday nights when my wife and I are out. Friday nights, she goes to a friend's house for movies and wine, and I play Warhammer 40K or card games. I figure they must have been waiting for us to leave and then threw a mini party or were quietly swimming while we slept. So I discussed it with my wife and decided to teach Karen and her brats a lesson. So, the next Friday night, I park my car a street over, and my wife does the same. We wait in the dark house to see if any of them come over. Daughter and I assume her boyfriend, the son and I assume his girlfriend, and 4 other teen couples come right over and start skinny dipping in my pool and hot tub. Why a bro and sis would do that together still bothers me. They have beer and I can smell the skunk from inside the house. I wait 45 minutes for them to get really into their fun, and 2 are actually doing stuff in my pool. I then spring my trap. I go out with my rifle, a Ruger Mini 14 with 20-round magazines for you weapon enthusiasts like me. I point it at the ground, but at the ready. When I reach the pool, my wife flips on the back lights and I yell for them to freeze or I'll shoot. My wife calls the police meanwhile. They all have the deer in the headlights look on their faces, and not one of them tries to speak for a good minute. The daughter tells us that she has permission to be there and that we need to let them get dressed. I tell them that if they move towards me or their property, that I would consider them to be charging me or reaching for a weapon, and I'd shoot. They must have believed me because they froze. One girl begged me to give her clothes while she was trying to cover her chest with her hands. Not being a total jerk, I say that I will throw them all of their clothing. I then walk over to their piles of clothing, phones, and purses and throw everything into the pool. they freak out trying to save their phones and other goods. After 10 minutes, the police show up and they have the kids climb out of the pool wearing their soaked clothes and trying to shake their phones dry. I showed the police the videos from our cameras, the no trespassing signs, and explained to them that I had told them and their mother that they were persona non grata. The kids were arrested for trespassing, possession of a controlled substance, underage drinking, and indecent exposure. The police recommended that next time I leave the weapon in the safe and let them just come and get them. I told them that I thought they may attack my wife and had to stand my ground. I proved that I never pointed it at them with the videos, so I couldn't be charged with anything. As the kids are being loaded into the police cruisers, Karen shows up, yelling at the police and my wife and I. She demands that the police let them go and even tries to open the door on one of the cruisers. The police threaten her with being arrested if she doesn't back off and leave my wife and I alone. I later found out that the charges against the teens were reduced and they all had plea deals. They all got community service, fines, and were put on probation. We got a restraining order against Karen and her brats, so they couldn't bother us again. I sent a bill to Karen for the cost of draining, disinfecting, and refilling my pool, and having a professional cleaning service clean up the kids' mess. The bill was for about $400. I had my parents' attorney send it to Karen with a letter stating that if it was not paid in 30 days, then we would sue her for a larger amount. She paid and sent a check to my attorney, and thankfully it did not bounce. About a year later, the entire entitled family moved away, and we never have heard from them again. You do not go and trespass on someone's property. I could just leave it at that, but I'm not. See, here's the thing. When you're a mom like Karen here, you got to have better respect and control with disciplining your children. And you should know that they should not go skinny dipping in a pool, brother or sister especially, and then just do your job as a parent. But Karen doesn't do that, right? So the kids got scared off, and hopefully they learned from this. They didn't get extreme time, but they got a little bit. They got community service and fines and quite the scare. They lost their phones, which, hey, that is probably the biggest punishment of them all to a kid, right? You lose your phone and there goes your whole entire connection to the world. And I say this as a millennial who is on my phone a little too much. How would have you handled this? Let me know. And also, way to go, OP. Airport Karens, posted by Friendly Mistake 02. Of all places, really? An airport? Here we go. So this happened earlier this month. I'm a 20-year-old female and decided to go to Spain for the summer to be an au pair. Sadly, this didn't work out due to the weather conditions as well as flight cancellations. I helped them find another au pair though. So I live in West Virginia. Those of you who have been here or live here know that there is only one major airport in the state, Yeager Airport, CRW, and it's small compared to many other states. So nothing eventful happened between CRW and Charlotte, CLT. I had a 5-hour layover originally at CLT, but due to bad weather in Miami, I was stuck for 3 extra hours. When boarding came around, the usual families with young kiddos, elderly, people with disabilities, and first class go first. I have generalized anxiety disorder, and I was allowed to board with the first group if I wanted to. I took the option as I was already stressed out and just wanted out of this huge airport. As I was walking to get in line, this obnoxious voice comes from behind me. "Excuse me, you aren't disabled." I turn around and sigh as I see the Karen with her 2 teenagers beside her. "Actually," I say, "I have generalized anxiety disorder. The airline is letting me board early if I want to." "Well, for someone with anxiety, you're pretty dang calm." I roll my eyes and grab my carry-on and walk to the gate, giving the person my ticket and boarding the plane. I get to my seat and get comfortable. The flight was uneventful, minus some unexpected turbulence before landing. Miami was also kinda uneventful until on the flight to go to O'Hare. Yeah, I'm never booking a flight through Expedia again. I wasn't so stressed out because the weather was great from Miami to O'Hare and the wait time was only 2 hours. So I boarded the plane during my time and sat down in my seat. Well, a few moments later, this nice old man comes and asks if he can squeeze by so he can get to his seat at the window. I let him by, and the row is now full. The last person to board is a Karen. The first thing she does is walk to the row in front of me and demand the window seat. When the woman refused, she called an attendant over and told her the issue. Karen 2 says, "This woman won't give me my seat." Attendant says, "Oh yes, let me see your ticket stub so I can check the seat number, miss." Woman says, "Here's mine." The attendant, after checking the nice woman's ticket, "Karen, your seat is in the back of the plane. Please stop bothering other passengers." That ended that Karen's rage moment. Later, I found out that she was the nice old man's daughter. Feel bad for him. Now, this one I witnessed as I was waiting on my homebound flight due to the last one to Spain being canceled due to a hurricane or something. We got to O'Hare smoothly and there wasn't any issues until they canceled the flight to Madrid. I was honestly kind of expecting it, so I wasn't bothered much by it. I just asked if they would be helping me return home and they said, of course. So I left the American Center and went to Spirit Airlines. They had one leaving to Yeager Airport in Charleston, West Virginia in 2 hours, so I gave them the voucher. About 5 minutes later into waiting, I heard screaming and, like everyone else did, walked to see what's going on. There was this couple, Karen 3 and Ken, who were screaming at the lady behind the counter due to their flight to Vegas being canceled due to poor weather conditions. This was in United. Karen says, "Get us on our frickin' flight right now." The worker says, "Ma'am, as I have said multiple times now, the flight has been canceled due to bad weather in Texas. We can issue you a voucher for the total cost of the flight or book you for the next available option." Ken says, "No, we're getting on that frickin' plane now." At this point, security had been called and came to dissipate the situation. They also cleared the area. Before I boarded, though, both of them were arrested for smuggling. They had some illegal substances in their bags. Holy cow, OP, I am so sorry you had like Karen 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, back to back, just dealing with it, but you held your ground pretty well, especially that last one there. They had the supplies in their bag and got arrested? I did not expect that twist and turn. Like as you're listening, did you please let me know in the comments, or if you're listening on the podcast, just check over on YouTube and let me know also. But I just really need to know how you handled this so smoothly. That was a great job, well done, OP, and I hope you had a safe trip and a fun time going everywhere you wanted to go. Oh, this story, if this is not a Karen, I don't know what is. It's called, "I Demand You Drive to My House and Restart My Router for Me," posted by Macrillan. I remembered another little gem from a month or so back. The customer had sent in a trouble ticket that his internet was not working after changing internet speed. My department at Second Line proceeded to troubleshoot it, and we could not see anything wrong. We could clearly see his private router was receiving an IP address and it was pingable. As such, I called the customer to ask him to connect a PC directly to his CPE. Unfortunately, this was not an option. See, it turned out that the customer was not even at home. Instead, he was around 800 kilometers away on the other side of the country and would not be home for 5 months or so. How did he know that his internet did not work then, you might ask? Well, apparently the guy had some kind of surveillance system with a ton of cameras, and he could no longer connect to them remotely, and demanded that we fix it. I might add that our support stretches to making sure internet works at home on one unit, not troubleshooting people's security systems connecting via VPN. I told the customer the deal, that we did not see anything wrong, and that he needed to restart his equipment, CPE and router, and connect a PC directly before we could even consider taking this ticket further. The absolute basics. But, as mentioned, the customer was not exactly available to do this. Instead, the customer thought that we should send out a technician to his house and I guess break in to restart his equipment. Naturally, I told him no, since that would be highly illegal. The customer then demanded that we reimburse him for needing to travel 1,600 kilometers back and forth to restart his equipment himself. Naturally, I told him we would not do that. He also demanded us to tell him his IP address so he could fix the issue himself. Naturally, I told him that we do not give out IP addresses over the phone, since that would be highly illegal and go against GDPR. It went back and forth like that for around 20 minutes. In the end, I told him, look, your options are either go home and do basic troubleshooting or live with the issue of not being able to use your cameras remotely until you get home in 5 months. Which one do you prefer? The customer refused both options. I then hung up the phone. Rumor has it that the customer still cannot access his security cameras from wherever he is at. I told you this was a super Karen here. Like seriously, the turn it off and on is the tech support of the century that everyone knows how to do. But to demand that you have someone go break into your house when you are across the universe and the world to just reset the dang thing is way too far. And on top of that, you want them to reimburse it too? You can't have your cake and pie and then ice cream and all that and eat it too. You want it all, you cannot have it all. Karen, what are you doing? Way to go, OP, on standing your ground. How would have you handled it if you were OP? Let me know. Karen attacks a blind, deaf, and mute guy, so he presses charges, and then this happens. You gotta hear this insane fallout, so click on the video on your screen, and I will see you in that next one.